Good afternoon, ladies. It's such a privilege to speak here with you today. And I'm going to talk about something that not a lot of people want to talk about, because who wants to talk about serious finances, right? Pastor said I'm going to introduce my job. So I do work as a financial security advisor. So I teach on life insurance, I teach on anything about insurance, as well as investments. So I am mutual funds licensed as well. So we're going to talk about 5 financial foundations and why do we even have to talk about this? Not a lot of us are always involved with our finances. In fact, like in some couples, it's the man who takes care of this, but in some, like in our case, it's me because this is the work that I do. So some of us are not even involved in dealing with our finances, even with our bills, even with our bank, our investments. So this is something that I really want women to be empowered with. So we are having some common challenges as women because we have caregiving income gaps. And the reason is because sometimes, no, actually all the time, almost all women here almost have given birth. And when you give birth, you have to take a break from work. And because of that work, you lose some of that income. And then it's gonna decrease the amount of retirement money that you would have. So that's really one challenge that we have. One more thing that's really important to talk about is statistically based, we outlive the man. So typically, just like my mom, she raised 5 children and we lost our father when we were very young. So that's why I'm really passionate about this. So we're gonna go to the first slide without further ado. I know that most of you have already heard that it is really important to track where our money goes. Now, I don't know if you've ever dealt with this, but sometimes going through the end of the month, we don't know where our money's gone. But in the Bible, it says in Proverbs 27:23, be sure you know the condition of your flocks and give careful attention to your herds. Now, learning about cash flow, it's just knowing where your money goes as soon as you receive it and then you track it. Even if you just do this for 30 days, it will align you to where does your money go. And then you would then identify where are your leaks, because that leak could sometimes be an avenue for you to invest or to save it. So, yeah, just as the shepherd tracks every animal in their care, we must diligently manage our spending because it's really important. So, the second slide is growing our blessings. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and olive oil, but a foolish man devours all he has. That's in Proverbs 21:20. So, if you remember the story of Joseph, he stored grain in Egypt for 7 years in the years of plenty. And that's because he knows that drought is going to come or famine is going to come for the next 7 years. So, thinking about that, what are the things that we have right now that maybe we can set aside in case that famine happens in our lives, right? So, in addition, when we receive blessings from our God, we also need to practice being generous. Because when we share our blessings, that's the more that we even grow ourselves. So we fund our purpose, so we save also because we have a purpose that God gives us, and we always give back to the master, which is God. And one thing that I really want to share that is important is when you're trying to save, it is important that you treat your savings as a bill. Because if you're just gonna treat it as something like you received your income, you pay all the bills, and then if there's something left, that's what you're gonna save, then it rarely even happens. And when that money, even when your savings, that even when you do it, if it's something that's always accessible to you, like your bank account, it's gonna be harder for you to actually keep it there because the tendency is, oh, I need something, so I'm just gonna get something from my savings, even though that was for a future purpose. So, the next point is break the chains. In Canada, I've noticed that it's so easy for us to get into debt. In the Philippines, I just have one credit card and that's it. But it's always a challenge to get up to buy a home. It's a challenge to buy a house. But here, it's so easy to avail things because we have a finance, buy this, and then you pay for this every month or something. Now, there's nothing wrong with having debt because sometimes that's what we need in order to support our family. Having too much debt can hinder us from being financially free and use our finances to serve God and to serve our family fully. So in the Bible, it says in Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender. So if you're someone who's already have this, and I myself, I'm working on debt because that's something that we all have to work on anyway. So for some people, it would work when you treat it as a snowball. A snowball method just means that you pay the smallest balance first rather than the highest interest. By doing this, it helps you think psychologically that if you're able to finish $1,000 debt, then it gives you that sense that you've accomplished something that it's important. It's time to move on and tackle the next level. The other way of paying off debt is called the debt avalanche, which you would pay the debts that had the high interest first. But in general, if you have any credit card debt that's over 22%, I would highly recommend to start that because it's going to be harder to pay it off in the future if it accumulates. There is also debt consolidation, and we can talk about this another time. So the fourth slide is protecting what matters. So Proverbs 22:3, it says, a prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. And this is where risk management comes in because having the appropriate coverage, whether it's insurance or contingency fund, would help alleviate the risk of your family suffering from when you can't provide for them anymore. And this is really so personal to me because, like I said, I lost my father when I was 5, and my mom was left with 5 children to feed. She didn't even have time to grieve at all. And the reason why I feel like this is so important because even though God blessed us with a lot of people that He used for us to, to grow up and be here and live the life that we're living today, I wouldn't want the same thing to happen to anybody else. So God is God gives us blessings. And I forgot there was a really important thing that I wrote, but it's so hard to read when you're here. Anyway, so God doesn't think of saving us not trusting Him because He also gives us the wisdom to use what we have to prepare for the future. He gives us knowledge, and I don't know if you remember the parable of the talents, where He would give, the master gave the talents to 3 people, and then one just buried it on the ground, one invested it and made it grow. That's something that's really important in there's actually lots of Bible verses that talks about finances, but for some reason we don't like to talk about it. And there's something to that we really need to think, why is it that we don't want to talk about it? So protect what matters. If you have insurance already in place, a lot of people that I talk to on a day-to-day basis have set up their policies 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but they never really reviewed it. And usually the chances are they have to change the beneficiaries. And sometimes they don't even know that their date of births are incorrect on that policy. So it's really important that even if you already have it, have that set aside a time to look at it and make sure that it still aligns with what your family needs and what your situation needs. So don't leave a mess, leave a legacy. Because protecting your family through proper planning is an act of love and legacy as well. And a very important part as well is having a will so that, again, we're not leaving complication when we are no longer here. Next slide, please. And then, so plan with a purpose. So suppose one of you wants to build a tower, won't you first sit down and estimate the cost? There is in Luke 14:28 to 33. I'm not going to read all that to you, but because of the essence of time, but I really encourage you to read again Luke 14:28 to 33, because Jesus teaches us a lot about planning in that section of the Bible. So wise planning matters. God is not against preparation. He wants us to count the cost and move forward with intention. So whatever it is that you're saving, so if you have financial goals, make sure to list it down. And whether it can be you're saving, maybe you're a newcomer here and you're saving for a home, maybe you're someone who's working towards retirement or planning for education for your kids. Make sure that you set aside time to really plan on how you're going to achieve those goals. And if needed, work with an advisor. Work with an advisor who can guide you, not just to sell you things, but to actually work on what you're really working towards. So, in my day to day job, what I notice as well, just I realize, and even I myself, I'm guilty about this, is we sometimes would take off our lunches, like use the time that we have for our lunch and go to salon. We would use our time to maybe we'll have our massage because the massage would only be up until 7, and sometimes that's where our work schedule is as well. But no one really plans on scheduling, oh, I'm gonna take this time off, or I'm gonna use 1 hour of my vacation time to plan my financial future. So if this is something that you want to work on, because I don't know, but there's really something about wise planning when it comes to finances, because we have to be intentional on how we manage our blessings, how we steward our finances. And God honors those who count the cost and move forward with intention. So anyway, if you're someone who's planning on doing these things, really set aside time and start where you are. Start with one habit. Maybe you have $25 that's left over with what you're spending with in today's time because of inflation. You can start with that. And like Pastor said, I share all about finances, the boring stuff that we don't talk about. I'm on YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel. Again, if you follow Marianne Agudo podcast on Instagram, you'll get a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card, and I'll message you within the day if you won. Thank you.
Thank you. That was excellent, Marianne. Thank you, Marianne. And certainly, if you want help, looking for help, looking for advice, please check Marianne. She does a great job. Listen to her podcast.